So good evening, everyone. My name is Maurya Hanspal, and in this session, we're gonna continue our session on financial modeling. So this is our session number 3 on financial modeling, and in the previous session of financial modeling 1 and financial modeling 2, we talked about the basics of financial modeling. That what exactly is financial modeling and why is financial modeling so important. And there is nothing to be panicked about financial modeling. So what did we do in the previous session? I would just give you a small recap. So in the previous session, we went to moneycontrol.com, and the company for the purpose of analysis of financial modeling that we have taken is Tata Motors. So what exactly did we do? Like we copied the income statement or the profit and loss statement from the moneycontrol.com. Like similarly, like your people can copy this statement from yahoo.com, or your people can copy this statement from the annual report of a company. But the one thing that you need to do, like when you are pasting these statements on Excel, you always have to paste them as values. Just don't copy paste them easily. Just copy paste them as space special and not only as space. And when you are pasting them as space special and in values heading, like you would be having like this data. And the second problem that we had, like when we were copy pasting this data, we had like 21 in the first column, then we had 20, and then we had 19, and then we had 18. So what exactly did we do? We just like shifted the column and dragged the column. Like for example here, like we clicked here and we had this sign, and once we had this sign, we just like dragged the columns and we did the intershifting of the columns. And then further, we try to analyze the data, and then we try to have our further interpretations on this data as well. Okay, so now our task is to give the like if you're basically presenting this data like to your manager or to your client, or like even if to your company in a big presentation or in a meeting, your task is to predict the forecasting, that you have to like forecast this data on the basis of the past data. So we had the past data for each of these following items, starting from revenue from operations to other income to expenses and various other things as well as we have in the profit and loss statement or the income statement. So what did we do? That first we tried to do a horizontal analysis or a comparative analysis. That is, we tried to compare the year 18, that is March 18 with March 17. And then we tried to compare the March 19 with March 18, and then we compared March 20 with March 19, and then we compared March 21 with March 20. And we did the simple formula. That is, we took the new value or the final value minus the beginning value and divided by the beginning value into 100. And we used this additional function of if error. And why did we use this function of if error? Because we do not want any certain Excel error to come. Like maybe in the form of division error or reference error or number error, when the cells don't have any values. Okay, so for that purpose, like we use the function if error. And how did we do it exactly? Please refer to the previous sessions. Okay, and the same comparison we did for all the years, and the last comparison we did was for the year of March 21 and March 20. And then we tried to make some conclusions, and we tried to understand the data, that why has been the profit declining for Tata Motors over the years. Has it like because of the reduction in revenues or increase in expenses? So then we tried to analyze all these items in detail, and we came to the conclusion that the other income factor was like kind of reducing, because when we go to the part of the other income, we can say from the positive other income it has declined to a negative one. Okay, so that was like one of the reasons. And further, we tried to analyze the other reasons as well, that why has the profitability been declining or increasing. And as a financial analyst, like when you occupy a position of the financial analyst or get a job of the financial analyst, your job is not only to look at the final profit or loss amount. Whether the company is making profit, it is good for the company is making loss, it is bad. You have to analyze each and every item of the income statement or balance sheet the same way as we did in this comparative analysis, or to be very simple, we call it as the horizontal analysis. Because the profit can increase because of the increase in revenues, the profit can decrease because of the decrease in revenues, and also because of the increase in expenses. It can also happen because we have a large number of sources of revenue, and we have a large number of the kind of expenses that the company is incurring. Further, in those total revenues, it can happen that the sales are fine. The sales have been increasing, but the other component of revenue has been decreasing, be it your other income or like income from investments. Same can go for like for the purpose of expenses. It can happen that your direct expenses have decreased, but your indirect expenses have increased. So all these things, each and every item in a P&L, you have to analyze, and only on the basis of that you can make your kind of interpretations and make recommendations to your clients, to your managers, and even to the top management of the company as well. So we tried to have like we basically did a comparison of the previous data, and you have the percentage changes here. Now, with all this data, if someone asks you, we tried to project the future data. If in March 2021, and that was the recent year that we had, so the profit that the company had in crores, like not profit, the income or the revenue from the operations that the company had in March 2021, that was 46,559.39 crores. 46,559.39 crores. The company had the revenue from operations. Okay, and now if someone is saying you to predict for March 2022, that what would be the revenue for the company in March 2022, then how you gonna do it? See, one thing before forecasting the future or trying to predict the future or estimating the future, the one thing I would like to say and clear it, these are just the estimations or projections. Our final number for 2022 might come out to be 50,000, but it might happen that the actual revenue it comes to be 49,000 or 48,000 or maybe 55,000, or maybe like there is some recession in the economy and even the sales go down even further. Because even at the time of COVID-19 pandemic in 2022 on March, like when the private offices or the economy got closed, like no one had predicted that that would have so much impact on the economy. Even in 2019, people had predicted that the 2020 would be the best year and revenues would rise. But all these market conditions or change in company dynamics cannot be predicted. These are just the forecast measures. So ultimately, if a manager is forecasting like 50,000 and the revenue comes out to be like 30,000 or 35,000, you cannot blame that manager because he's just forecasting. And the simplest way to forecast or the easiest way to forecast is to take the average of these returns. As see in this cell, like we compared for 2017 and 18, and here we compared for 18-19, then 19-20 and 19-21. So we had the year by year ka data. So we can take the average of all this and we can have an estimate on an average of 5 years how much has the kind of revenues of the company grown. So by using the average function, like what we can do, so I'll take here as average, or I'll just write here as average. Yeah, I'll use the function is equal to average. It's an inbuilt function and one of the basic functions in Excel that you should know, average. And now we'll select all these percentage changes and then we would close the bracket and press OK. It says on an average over a 5-year span, the revenues from the operations, because we are talking about only the operations, has grown at an average rate or at an average of 2.3 or like yes, average of like 2.3%. Okay, so exactly see that is your average of 2.3%. So 2.3% se grow kar hai. Now what next thing we can do, we can make some other column and we can name it as your March 2020. Okay, and now we can predict, and this is a growth rate. Okay, and now what we can do, we can try to predict the future. How? For 2021 ke base pe we have to predict the future. So this is our base value into 1 plus this value, 1 plus this value, and obviously we'll have to convert this value into percentage. So we'll divide it by 100. So to have an adequate growth rate. And this we are doing it for next 1 year. If we are doing it for next 5 years or 4 years, then further we can raise it to the power of 5. But in this case, we are just predicting for next 5 years. Like for next 1 year, that is for 2022. Okay, so we pressed OK. So it comes out to be 47,666.6 crores. That is from 559, it has increased to 4766.6 crores because we are in an increasing trend here. So ideally, the company would want to be in the increasing trend only. And if we further drag it like here, so how this next value has come, 1088. So what it has done, it has taken the growth rate on this value. Okay, and this is completely wrong. So do not just drag the values in front. Okay, if you want to predict for 1 year, for 2 years, then just like raise it to the power of 2. Just don't drag the values because ultimately it will take up on this only. Okay, then again what we can do, we can just predict for the next year, and again for next year we can like take this value into like what we can do 1 plus, and this was the average growth rate, and again we'll have to like divide it by 100, and this value is for March 2023. Okay, and in this way you people can predict, and that is the simplest way of doing it. Okay, some people like what do, like instead of taking this, they only take the last year. मान लो कि 2020 and 21 में 7.06% का change आया था, तो they'll take as 1 plus 7.06 instead of taking the average. So it is all upon the financial analyst that what method is taking into consideration. But taking the average method is the best one because average method, it gives you a conservative measure. ठीक है कि इतना तो मिनिमम होगा ही होगा. ओके, यहाँ पे अगर 7% है और यहाँ पे 2.3%, तो 7% तो बहुत ज्यादा हो गया, एंड हर साल क्या पता कि 7% कंपनी ना दे. ओके, सो दिस कैन इजीली हैपन. So instead of taking 7.06%, which can be an overestimate or an oversimplified means, we take the conservative means of 2.3%. And similar average can be taken down here as well. We can drag this down. So like सबका average आ जाएगा. Okay, and if we just drag this cell down, so let's see like what happens. When we drag this cell down, we get the average 0%. Okay, from the other income. So I'll talk about it. So don't worry about that. तो इसको भी हम ड्रैग इन अगर हम करें for everything, see automatically like it is predicting on the basis of the average only, and automatically the Excel would take it. Okay, so we'll just drag it down, and even for the profitability as well, the Excel would predict. अब हम दो चीजों की बात करते हैं यहाँ पे. The first thing is, see, at some point of time the company had some taxes or other levies. ठीक है, तो you cannot do it blindly because यहाँ पे तुम्हारा वो 0% चार्ज होगा because यहाँ पे भी like 0% आया है. Okay, so these things changes each year and you cannot like predict them. And on the year जो भी तुमको टैक्स रेट कंपनी देगी या फिर गवर्नमेंट देगी, तुम like उसी के बेसिस पे तुम टैक्स रेट लगाओगे. ठीक है, so these things you cannot predict. Okay, similarly एक और चीज आती है, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी देखते हैं बिकॉज प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कंपनी की नेगेटिव आ रही थी. तो अगर हम एवरेज लेंगे तो क्या पता कि कंपनी की प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी और नेगेटिव हो जाए. ठीक है, बट वो तो कंपनी के लिए अच्छा नहीं होगा बिकॉज हाउ कैन वी प्रेडिक्ट द नेगेटिव प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इन फ्यूचर, राइट. अब ये देखो, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस फॉर द पीरियड हमारा आ रहा था कि एवरेज हमारा ये आया कि -220.102. ओके, दिस हैज बीन योर एवरेज परसेंटेज कि इससे प्रॉफिट कम हो रहा है. और अगर हम यही रेट हम यूज करते रहे, इसका हमने एवरेज लिया, एंड यही रेट अगर हम -220% से गिर रहा है प्रॉफिट, दैट इज ह्यूज. तो इस पे हम -220% लगाएंगे, दैट इज ऑन लास्ट ईयर, दैट इज -2375. ठीक है, प्लस हम इस पे ये वाला ग्रोथ रेट कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो हमारा पहले था 295 से हमारा लॉस, सी हाँ हम इस पे दिस 295 से हमारा लॉस 2877 हो गया, राइट. ये हमने लिया और इस पे हमने ये रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट लगाया, हमारा लॉस और बढ़ गया. ठीक है, अगेन वी कैन से दैट व्हेन द एवरेज ग्रोथ रेट इज कमिंग आउट टू बी नेगेटिव, दिस कैन नॉट बी अ रियलिस्टिक मेजर बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली 295 से 220% की नेगेटिविटी से हम पीछे जा रहे हैं, तो प्रॉफिट वो लॉस तुम्हारा मतलब कि बढ़ता ही जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे दैट इज शोइंग एज अ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, बट वो लॉस ही होगा बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली दिस ग्रोथ रेट इज नेगेटिव. अगर हम इसको माइनस लें तो ये आएगा, ठीक है। तो आइडियली लाइक इट डजंट वर्क इन टर्म ऑफ द नेगेटिव वन। तो नेगेटिव वन में हम क्या लेंगे? In the terms of negativity, we try to predict the future not on the basis of these values. Okay, not absolutely on the basis of these values. And we take into consideration other metrics as well. And those metrics are not complicated. We see कि कंपनी की profitability अगर negative में है तो क्यों है. So all this behavior analysis is done by the financial analyst. वो देखेगा कि profitability negative होती जा रही है. So he would not work in predicting the growth rate of negativity. Okay, he'll work how to reduce that negativity, how to increase that profitability. So then he would start working with the other team managers और वो देखेगा कहाँ पे कंपनी का खर्चा सबसे ज्यादा हो रहा है या कहाँ पे द कंपनी कैन इंक्रीज इट्स मैक्सिमम रेवेन्यू. There can be some products in the market, or there might be some automobiles in the market, because we are particularly like we are like talking about Tata Motors. तो कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स या कुछ ऑटोमोबाइल्स हो सकते हैं जिनकी सेल हो ही नहीं रही. एंड रिसेंटली टाटा मोटर्स ऑल्सो डिस्कार्डेड लाइक सम ऑफ दी ऑटोमोबाइल्स जो बेकार थे और जिनकी सेल्स हो ही नहीं रही थी. तो ऐसी चीजों को एक कंपनी कंप्लीटली कैन डिस्कार्डेड ऑफ. एंड जो प्रोडक्ट सेल दे रहे हैं अगर वही लाइक कंपनी रखेगी तो वहां से सेल्स भी और आएगी एंड अल्टीमेटली द रेवेन्यू लाइक वुड इंक्रीज. तो नाउ दे वुड ट्राई टू प्रिडिक्ट कि अगर हम खराब प्रोडक्ट्स को निकाल देंगे एंड अच्छे प्रोडक्ट्स को रखेंगे तो सेल कितनी बढ़ सकती है. देन दे ट्राई टू एस्टिमेट दैट प्रोडक्ट. एंड वो बिल्कुल बेसिक है. वो कंपनी की बैलेंस शीट देखेंगे. मान लो लाइक दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट टाटा मोटर्स. तो वहां पे लाइक इफ टाटा मोटर्स सेल 5 कार्स ABCDE, वो देखेंगे कार बी की सेल तो बहुत ही खराब है एंड मार्केट में डिमांड ही नहीं है. दिल डिस्कार्ड कार बी. एंड दे सी ACDE की सेल्स तो बहुत ज्यादा है. अगर हम बी में टाइम वेस्ट करने के बजाय ACDE में अपना टाइम लगा दे हम सेल्स और बढ़ा सकते हैं. तो और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होगी, सेल्स बढ़ेगी और कंपनी का रेवेन्यू भी बढ़ेगा. सो देल से अगर कार बी की सेल्स मान लो कि टोटल सेल्स A to E की मिला के मान लो कि 5 लाख की सेल्स होती है, ठीक है. बट जो कार बी है उसकी सेल्स बस 5 है. सबकी मिला के 5 लाख है, कार बी की सेल्स 5 है. तो बोलेंगे हम कार बी पे अपना टाइम क्यों वेस्ट करें जो बस 5 सेल्स है. तो कार बी को निकाल देंगे एंड वही टाइम वो ACDE में निकाल लेंगे. एंड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटीज अवेलेबल, कितना कंपनी के पास मशीनरी है, कितने टाइम में वो कर सकते हैं, तो वो देखेंगे हम बाकी कार्स हम 5 लाख के बजाय अब हम 6 लाख कर सकते हैं प्रोड्यूस. तो अकॉर्डिंगली कंपनी का रेवेन्यू बढ़ जाएगा एंड अकॉर्डिंगली दे ट्राई टू प्रिडिक्ट द प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी. तो उसमें वो सारे ऊपर के आइटम्स में आएगा चेंजेस एंड यहाँ पे वो नेगेटिविटी शायद कम हो जाए. इंस्टेड ऑफ -295 शायद -95 ही हो जाए. एंड क्या पता है कि प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी हो जाए. So these the CEOs or the management of the company, then they come to the like to big channels and on like press conferences, and they tend to justify कि negativity क्यों आई है profits में and what is the company doing to maximize the profits now. कौन से operations company निकाल रही है, कौन सा ये सब कर रही है. So that the company tries to do. Okay, तो वहाँ पे फिर ये percentage काम नहीं आने वाला. वहाँ पे the realistic works come into place and on the basis of that the projection is made. Okay. That was all for today, and in the next session I would be talking about the balance sheet analysis. Okay, so thank you so much.